Manhattan was breathing with difficulty that night. Traffic barely murmured on the avenues, as if the city, even in its usual insomnia, sensed that something was about to break. The lights of Fifth Avenue flickered under a subtle, steady drizzle. At 11:45 at night, the exclusive bar The Enchantment was a quiet oasis amid the chaos of the city. Michael Harrison crossed the threshold of the bar without greeting anyone. It wasn't arrogance, it was habit. His reputation as an inaccessible man preceded him, but those who knew him understood it wasn't from disdain, but from his need to stay alert. In his world, trust was a luxury that cost dearly. The bar, located on the 22nd floor of an unmarked building, was dressed in dark woods, black marble, and emerald green velvet curtains. No photos or calls were allowed, and only pre-authorized clients could enter. Michael had an assigned table for years, tucked in a corner where he could see without being seen. He sat down, pulled out his phone, and began reviewing the day's financial reports. The numbers at Harrison Capital kept growing, but something in the market movements bothered him. A strange pattern, possibly manipulation. Blackwood, he thought, that bastard never sleeps. A waitress approached silently. He hadn't seen her before, not at this place. She had her hair pulled back in a tight braid, her face serious but serene, and dark eyes loaded with something more than simple concentration. She served him a Glenfiddich 50-year, a whiskey he only ordered on special occasions. Next to the glass, she placed a folded note. She said nothing, just a slight nod of her head, and walked away. Michael opened the paper discreetly. He read, "Don't drink it, smile, and leave now." It took him less than 3 seconds to decide. He raised the glass, turned it gently between his fingers, brought it close to his lips, and barely touched the rim. He smiled. He lifted his gaze to the bartender and raised the glass as if toasting. Then he stood up, left some bills on the table, and walked out calmly as if the world weren't about to come crashing down. Already in his armored car, a black Mercedes with no visible plates, he had barely started the engine when his cell phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated for a moment and answered, "Who is this?" "It's me, the waitress. Don't hang up," said a female voice. "My name is Isabella Martinez. They just tried to poison you." A sharp silence settled between them. "Talk, and you'd better hope what you say makes sense," Michael responded. "Not over the phone. There's a rooftop 3 blocks from here. Riverside building. 17th floor. There's a maintenance staircase in the back. I'll be waiting for you." The call ended. Michael climbed without making noise. The building was half abandoned, with empty offices and broken windows. When he reached the rooftop, Isabella was already there. The wind played with her loose hair. She wore a black jacket over her waitress uniform. "You could have been a trap," he said, his tone neutral. "And you could have died if you drank that whiskey," she replied, without beating around the bush. They looked at each other for a long, tense second, until Michael broke the silence. "Start talking." Isabella took a deep breath. "My brother, Julian Martinez, worked as an accountant for Richard Blackwood. For almost 2 years, he handled his personal finances and those of his shell companies. One day, he decided to do the right thing. He gathered evidence, talked to a prosecutor, and he turned up dead in his apartment, with a supposed suicide that nobody investigated." Michael watched her with a hard gaze, but didn't interrupt. "Since then, I've dedicated myself to finding justice. I trained, learned everything I could about Blackwood's environment, and managed to get accepted as part of the event staff at one of his bars. Then I climbed the ranks until they allowed me to serve at the Enchantment. Blackwood has been planning something against you for weeks. I heard him 2 nights ago. I decided to warn you." "Why now? And why me?" "Because you're next. Blackwood feels you're the only obstacle between him and a monopoly in the real estate sector nationwide. He's already destroyed others, but with you he wants something more. He wants to humiliate you before making you disappear." Michael clenched his teeth. Blackwood was a shadow with power, connections, and a history of barely credible accidents around him. "Do you have proof?" "Not much yet, but I have access, and you have resources. We can help each other. But if you decide not to trust me, that's fine. I just wanted you to get out alive tonight." There was another silence, but this time different. Michael nodded slightly. I'm going to investigate this my way. If you're telling the truth, I'll find you. She nodded without trying to convince him further. Be careful. He never plays fair. At 2:20 in the morning, Michael entered his personal office, located in a penthouse on Park Avenue. Nobody knew he'd be there that night. He headed to his monitoring room. It was a room hidden behind a false wall, where he maintained control of all his properties and communications. He turned on the system. Reviewing the day's records, he noticed something that froze his blood. At 7:33 in the evening, someone had accessed the internal security server from an internal IP. He checked the connected users. One of the accesses came from an administrator account that only 3 people used. And one of them was out of the country. Damn it, he muttered, his fingers flying over the keyboard. There was no direct evidence, but a growing certainty. Blackwood didn't just want him dead. He wanted to destroy him from within, and someone close had already opened the door. Dawn was still fading when Michael Harrison returned to his penthouse after discovering the intrusion in his system. He hadn't slept a minute. At 8 o'clock sharp in the morning, he was back in his office, his face tense and eyes burning with contained fury. Isabella arrived on time. She had left behind the waitress uniform and now wore a grey blazer, sober, with dark jeans and a backpack slung over her shoulder. She entered without saying a word, but her gaze carried the same intensity from the night before. "What do you have for me?" Michael asked without preamble. Isabella opened the backpack and pulled out a USB drive with a black cross sticker. "It's the last thing my brother left me. He gave it to me 3 days before he died. He told me that if anything happened to him, I should take it to someone who could do something real." Michael inserted the drive into his personal computer. Several files appeared: encrypted bank transfers, documents with stamps from shell construction companies, names of politicians, records of capital movements between New York, Panama, and the Cayman Islands. "Is this real?" he asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "Verify it yourself. I know you don't fully trust me yet." And she was right. Michael didn't trust easily, but the information had weight. Too much weight. The coded names matched nicknames he himself had heard in confidential meetings. The figures aligned with movements that had seemed suspicious to him months ago. "Who else has seen this?" he asked, turning toward her. "Nobody. Just you and me. And maybe someone else." "Who?" "Blackwood. I'm sure Julian wasn't as discreet as he thought. That's why they silenced him." Michael shut the computer abruptly. "We're going to do something," he finally said. "Blackwood will be at the charity event for the Hartford Foundation this Friday. I was also invited. We'll go together, but we'll enter with a plan." "What are you planning?" "You're going to place this," he pulled a small box from his desk, "on his watch. It's a microtransmitter, very discreet. I need to hear him in real time." Isabella took the device carefully. Her face showed something more than determination. There was pain, but also a spark of hope. On the night of the event, the ballroom at the Waldorf Astoria was covered in white lights, string music, and television cameras. Politicians, businessmen, socialites, power gathered under one roof, disguised as philanthropy. Michael entered as always, impeccable, serene, accompanied by a woman unknown to almost everyone. Isabella, in a midnight blue dress with her hair up, went unnoticed as just another assistant. The perfection of her facade was part of the plan. Blackwood appeared with his entourage of bodyguards disguised as assistants. Tall with graying hair, shark's smile. He greeted everyone with pats on the back and a charisma that chilled the blood of anyone who knew him well. When he saw Michael, he raised an eyebrow with feigned surprise. "Well, well, the old wolf among lambs," Blackwood said, extending his hand. Michael smiled, false and precise. "Sometimes you have to feed the flock so they don't get eaten," he responded. They laughed. Everyone laughed. During the brief conversation, Isabella approached with 2 glasses of wine. Pretending to stumble, she subtly leaned on Blackwood's arm and in a single movement placed the micro-device on his watch strap. "I'm so sorry," she said, blushing. "How clumsy of me." Blackwood looked her up and down. He smiled at her. "Nothing to be sorry for." Back at the penthouse, Michael and Isabella listened to Blackwood's conversations from the transmitter. Laughter. Key terms. Package arrives Tuesday. We need to clean the assets. The senator already agreed. This is gold, Michael murmured. If we capture the rest, we could bring him down in one blow. Isabella nodded, but her face showed a new unease. Are you okay? He asked. There's something I haven't told you. I think Blackwood knows I'm following him. I don't have proof, but I felt like someone's watching me, even when I'm alone. Michael looked at her intently. For the first time, he believed her fear. From now on, you're not going to be alone. The following afternoon, while Michael was reviewing the captured audios, his cell phone vibrated. A text message from a hidden number. They're using you. Get out now. It wasn't what the message said that disturbed him. It was the sender. The number belonged to Thomas Reed, one of his most loyal security agents. Officially, Thomas had died a year ago after a car accident in Miami. Michael had paid for his funeral. He had mourned his loss. He reread the message several times. His heart was pounding hard. Something wrong? Isabella asked from the other side of the room. Michael turned off the screen. Nothing. Just an outlier. He wasn't going to share it yet, not until he was sure. That night, Michael ordered all his digital accesses reinforced. He reviewed the profiles of his closest staff, ordered internal audits, and requested tracking of the message's origin. At 2:38 in the morning, he received the result. The message had been sent from an active phone, geolocated, inside Manhattan, and not only that. The number had been used that same night to call a known number, that of one of Richard Blackwood's current escorts. Michael jumped to his feet. His head was boiling. Was Thomas alive? Was he with Blackwood? Or was someone else using his identity? And worse yet, who within his own team had betrayed him? Trust, that already scarce resource, was about to collapse, and with it, the entire plan. The tension in the penthouse could be cut with a sigh. Michael hadn't said a word since receiving the message from Thomas Reed's number. He just stared at Isabella, with a mixture of contained rage and something more dangerous, distrust. I need you to be completely honest with me, he finally said, his voice sharp. I have been since day one, she responded without hesitation. Then explain to me why a dead man's phone is warning me that you're using me. Isabella paled. What? Thomas Reed? But he's dead, isn't he? That's what I thought, Michael replied. Until last night he sent me a message from a number linked to one of Blackwood's escorts. She took a step back, as if her body responded by reflex to the emotional blow. I have nothing to do with that, she said in a broken voice. I don't know what game Blackwood is playing, but I... Enough, he interrupted. Until I know what's going on, you're going to stay here, under surveillance. What? Are you kidding? No. Michael activated the security panel and locked all the exits of the penthouse. Even the terrace was sealed. I'm not arresting you, just I need clarity. If this is a trap, I need to know now. Isabella looked at him with contained tears, not of fear, but of helplessness. She didn't say another word. She turned around and entered one of the guest rooms, slamming the door. That night the city seemed darker than normal. Clouds hid the moon and the wind didn't move. Inside the penthouse, the silence was absolute. Until Isabella turned on her laptop. She used a private connection that didn't appear in Michael's security systems. She entered a 22-character password and accessed her cloud backup, a folder titled JM Final Truth. There were the recordings. More than 30 hours of audios, intercepted emails and short videos recorded with a micro camera hidden in her necklace. She reviewed one in particular. Date, September 22nd. Time, 10:12 at night. Location, Blackwood's office. The magnate could be seen standing, pouring himself a whiskey. His voice was clear, cold. Listen to me carefully, Isabella. I don't care that you were Julian's sister. I don't care if you cry for him or hate him. What I want is for you to finish what you started. You're going to get close to Michael. You're going to earn his trust, and you're going to lead him to the point where I can destroy him publicly. If you don't, your mother and nephew are going to have an accident, am I clear? Isabella's heart was pounding violently. Even watching the recording again, she had lived that moment with terror. But now, it was her insurance. She exported the video, saved it on an encrypted drive, and called Michael from the penthouse intercom. "I need you to see something. It's the only way you'll understand everything." Michael took several minutes to enter. He still doubted everything. But when he saw the video, he didn't say a single word until it ended. "When did you record this?" "Over a month ago. I've had it saved in case things went wrong. I didn't show it to you before because I didn't trust you, just like you didn't trust me. And your family. They're hiding in Philadelphia. I changed their names, their phones. Blackwood thinks they're still in the city." Michael ran a hand over his face. What he felt wasn't just frustration. It was guilt. He had locked up the only person who was really helping him. "I'm sorry," he said in a low voice. "I shouldn't have done it." "Don't worry. I just want us to finish this." They looked at each other with a new sincerity. There was no romance yet, but there was a connection forged in shared tension and pain. The next day, Michael activated his private intelligence team. They reviewed the collected information and cross-referenced data with files that Julian had left hidden on secondary servers. That's how they discovered a gigantic operation. Blackwood was using a front real estate company, Antares Investment Group, to launder money from drug trafficking. The next step in the plan was to move a shipment of cash and cocaine from Baltimore through a network of non-existent real estate projects. "The movement is scheduled for Monday," Isabella said, reading the leaked records. "If we manage to document the transfer, we have evidence to destroy him." "We will," Michael assured her. That night at 9:10, while they were finishing mounting the operation, Michael's cell phone screen lit up. A video call. Sender. Unknown. He answered. It was Blackwood. "You know what I love about you, Michael," he said with a mocking smile, "that you've always believed you're one step ahead, when really you've always been one step behind. What do you want?" "Just to let you know the game's over. Your plan, your operation, your recordings, I've known about all of it from the beginning." Michael didn't blink. He stayed calm. "Since when?" "Since the first toast you didn't make at the enchantment. From that moment I knew my little puppet had warned you." Isabella tensed next to him, furious. "So this was all a trap?" Michael asked. Blackwood smiled cynically. "A trap within a trap. But what you didn't know, Michael, is that—" Suddenly his face changed. A bit of doubt appeared in his gaze. "Wait, where are you?" Michael turned the camera. He showed an empty room. "Too late, Blackwood." Isabella approached with another laptop in hand. "And by the way, I recorded everything from day one." She turned up the volume on the video. The same recording where Blackwood threatened to hurt her family played clearly. "That copy is already in the cloud," she said, "programmed to be sent to media, judges, and international agencies in case anything happens to me. This is over." The call ended. Michael and Isabella looked at each other. They had crossed the point of no return. Now, it wasn't just about justice. It was about surviving and winning. Monday's dawn arrived without softness. Manhattan's sky was painted in metallic gray, reflecting the tension floating in the air. Michael and Isabella were no longer improvised allies. They had become a silent, determined, relentless force. The evidence against Blackwood was ready. Isabella, sitting in front of her computer, typed with surgical precision. The recordings, encrypted emails, voice audios, images of bank accounts, and coded testimonies. Everything was packaged and sent to an encrypted server with automatic activation. "Are you sure you want to do it this way?" Michael asked. "Yes. If anything happens to us, everything gets released. To the press, international authorities, the Financial Intelligence Unit, and human rights organizations. There'll be no going back." Perfect. Michael did his part. He activated his connections. He called a federal judge he had helped years ago when they tried to frame her. Then an investigative journalist he trusted, a former Secretary of the Treasury, and a prosecutor in Chicago whose sister had been a victim of one of the drug lords linked to Blackwood. It was time to break the institutional silence. The publication was scheduled for 8 o'clock in the morning. And at exactly that time, the emails exploded. The newsrooms of at least 8 media outlets received the complete package with just one phrase in the subject line: "The truth about Blackwood." In less than 20 minutes, Richard Blackwood became a national trending topic. Morning shows stopped their content to read excerpts from the recordings. Images of official documents and million-dollar transfers flooded social media. An investigative journalist leaked part of the video where Blackwood directly threatened Isabella. The entire country fell silent. Public opinion, already fed up with impunity, reacted with fury. The impact was immediate. 3 companies announced they were breaking ties with Blackwood. Several politicians began deleting photos and statements mentioning him, and in an unexpected move, a senator came forward voluntarily to testify, admitting to being extorted by him. Michael and Isabella, in their private monitoring center, watched everything. "It's working," she said, with a trembling sigh. "The hardest part is still ahead, catching him." Blackwood tried to react. First, he denied everything, blaming a smear campaign orchestrated by rivals. But seeing that his main lawyers were canceling their appointments and that one of his escorts disappeared with the personal laptop he guarded so carefully, he understood that his time was up. He ordered his personal pilot to prepare the plane. He wanted to leave the country that same night. But when he arrived at the private hangar in Teterboro, he found a blockade. A convoy from the FBI, along with agents from the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network and Homeland Security, was waiting for him with arrest warrants signed by 3 different judges. He tried to resist. He shouted. He threatened. "You have no idea who you're messing with." One of the agents handcuffed him without responding. The cameras, already alerted, captured everything. The magnate's fall was broadcast live on national television. 2 months later, the atmosphere in Lake Placid was different, silent, peaceful. The mountains embraced the lake with an air of complicity. Far from the offices, the cameras, the scandals, Michael and Isabella walked along a trail bordered by pines. They went hand in hand, unhurried. There was no longer urgency in their steps, only purpose. "I never thought I'd be alive to see Blackwood fall," she said with a soft smile. "And I never thought I'd end up trusting someone again," he responded. They paused at a small chapel hidden among trees. There, with a local justice of the peace, 2 witnesses and a couple of close friends, they got married. No press, no luxuries, just the 2 of them. Days later, Michael convened his board of directors. "Harrison Capital has a new face," he said in front of his executives. "Starting today, we're opening the Internal Investigations Department. It will be led by someone who has demonstrated more courage, integrity, and vision than many in this room." Isabella entered, elegant and firm. Everyone stood up. "The objective will be clear: to ensure we're never part of the corruption we swore to fight. We're going to investigate from within and also from outside." The applause was genuine. Some looked at her with respect, others with fear. They were both fine with that. On the building's terrace that same afternoon, Michael and Isabella had wine. The sun fell over the city like a fulfilled promise. "Do you think this will ever end?" she asked. "No," he replied, "but now we fight it together." She smiled. He did too. Amid the noise of the world, they had found something more than justice. They had found peace.